Designers like to be seen in the right place with the right people, wearing the right brands.
Wearing the right color.
Exactly.
Today on Design Etc., I'm talking with Jay Dutta. What stays with me about Jay isn't the scale of what he's built.
We kind of started realizing that we'll run out of Bangalore altogether. 3,000 people walked in through our doors. I don't care if it's the world's biggest or the smallest, but it has to be one of the most meaningful ones for our attendees.
Jay, belonging is also one of the hardest outcomes to design for.
The idea is to curate a certain vibe which attracts a certain set of people.
Today, a lot of brands are also trying to build communities.
What I've realized is there is only one fundamental question that you need to keep asking and answering.
Jay has spent nearly 3 decades doing 3 things that sound related but are actually very different: building products, building teams, and building community. He's led design across Adobe, Flipkart, Make My Trip, and is currently the global head of UX at Deutsche Bank. But the thing I wanted to talk to him about isn't on his resume, perhaps. It's DesignUp, a community he built from scratch over a decade ago in response to a gap he couldn't stop noticing. It's grown into one of the most respected spaces for designers and design leaders in India, and it's now expanding globally. What stays with me about Jay isn't the scale of what he's built, it's the restraint, the curation, the fact that he's played a long game in an industry obsessed with speed. Community is easy to launch, it's very hard to sustain, and even harder to sustain with integrity. So that's what we get into. Why he built DesignUp, what it was responding to, how it evolved, what almost broke it, and what it taught him about designing belonging. Not as a byproduct, but as an intention. If you're a designer, a leader, or someone trying to build something that actually lasts, this one's for you. Let's get into it. Thank you, Jay, for joining us today at Design Etc. I'm super grateful to you because it's a very special one, especially because I have been trying to belong to a community and I found my space at DesignUp when I attended the event. Just felt very warm and just kind of the right mix. So I want to decode a bunch of questions. Jay, before we get started, tell us who you are a little bit in your own words. Like, who is Jay besides being an amazing design leader and also this community leader?
Today, people know me as founder of DesignUp, but I think much more than that, I have been in the design profession for almost close to 3 decades or maybe even more. I think over the last maybe 15 years, I have led design teams for Adobe, for Make My Trip, for Flipkart, for Udan, and now for Deutsche Bank, leading their platforms for investment banking and platforms and products and so on. I typically use the thing that I'm also an aspiring monk and a student of diving. And yeah, I think I keep doing lots of different things. I read a lot. So yeah, that is me in a nutshell. And I love to travel, of course. That's the other bit. I'm also a more eclectic designer in the sense that I trained in typography and type design, which by nature is it's half science, half art. And I think that training helped me very quickly move into user experience design, product design, whatever we call it now, because of the tech side of things. And I think I had a deep appreciation of that. At the same time, I'm very much a tech guy at heart and very much an art person. It's a combination. And I guess that's what brought me into UX. And this has been my home for many decades now.
So, Jay, you were saying that you've designed products at Adobe, Flipkart, Make My Trip. You've also advised startups inside VC firms and helped build a national health app in a pandemic. When you look across all of that, is there a single thread that kind of connects how you think about design?
I think two parts. One is how can I serve the user better? And I don't think so much in terms of UX or product design, but for me, I think method or medium is at hand. I pretty much will use it or throw it. So in that sense, I'm very eclectic. The second thing is I love challenges and I love things which are little complicated and things which are hard. So if you think about Make My Trip, when I joined Make My Trip, their app was not at all in a good shape. It was not done here in India. It was done by some agency outside of India. Its website wasn't great at all. There were two different things. When you went inside, each different flow was on its own trip. So, for example, if you went into domestic return and domestic one way versus international return, international one way, there were like almost four sub apps within one app. So, yeah, I love good challenges and hard problems overall. Even what I'm doing at Deutsche Bank isn't easy. So, yeah, that's what keeps me kind of like, okay, if this is hard, then there must be fun here. So,
Okay,
yeah.
that's great. So the common thread is then being human centered, also having challenges across whatever you worked on.
Yeah, you're so right. I think it's human centricity, tool agnostic, and always up for a good challenge.
So, at what point did you stop seeing yourself as a design doer? Because that's how you started, right? You started as a type designer and art director. And when was it then that you realized there's more to design? And when did you start seeing design as a way of thinking that could be applied to anything?
I've had that niggling feeling for my initial years that there's more to it than being craftsperson or doing something well. And I think the first few years after you graduate from design school or get into the design profession, even if you didn't graduate from one, is you want to hone your craft, you want to make something, you're kind of obsessed with getting things out there and seeing it in people's hands. I went to do my master's in the UK, and my professors were very much, there were two of them who were very strongly of the belief that design has to be much more than just the doing part of it. I mean, it's not just design thinking, but design has to be beyond artifacts. And design has to be more systemic in nature. Design has to be much more thoughtful around everything that is part of the journey per se. So you really can't get something out without understanding the processes and the people who control those processes and so on and so forth, sort of thing. And you've got to look at kind of making the change inside as well as outside. So I think that for me was a very, very big change. When I left design school, I started my own company in the UK. And a lot of projects that we handled were of the nature very complex. They didn't just deliver an artifact, sometimes they delivered service map, for example, or sometimes delivered a research project with a whole set of recommendations and so on. But I think the whole idea was that it has to go beyond the artifact per se.
We have, I guess, a little bit of a similar kind of a journey. Probably I went a little later and you went much sooner. So when you cast your mind back where DesignUp started, right? What was the feeling that wouldn't like leave you alone? What felt absent that you couldn't stop noticing? Like, why did you feel the need to start DesignUp?
So I started DesignUp while I was in the VC world, working with a lot of founding teams of products and companies and brands which are household names in India today. And one thing I noticed is that they had very different takes on what design means for them. I also knew and I had friends and I had known in the past a lot of designers who were in different areas. So, for example, branding and communication and product and physical products and digital products and service design and so on. One thing I was noticing is that the demand side is hungry for design with a big D, a larger goal for design. With design in tech, I think there was a way to make a 10x, 100x, 1000x kind of a difference. But on the other hand, designers by the very nature were caught in what I would call the craft claustrophobia. They were very much siloed in their craft and in their thinking. And so if they were UX guys, they were just UX guys. And if they're UI, they were UI. And the only thing is that you had the UI UX, which I particularly don't like. So this is where the idea was to break out of the UI boxes and this craft claustrophobia and break the glass ceiling of screens, if I were to say so.
I love the word craft claustrophobia. I see that people are siloed in their own ways of working and thinking. Product designer or a UX designer would think in a certain manner and that's their world, right? Like there's so much more if you connect the dots, if you just like open up and look at things differently or from different perspectives, you'd kind of really notice so much more. So that's also the philosophy of design, etc. And I'm so happy to hear that that was your first reason why you started DesignUp. And you were saying that you were in a VC firm and you were, in the rooms where you were making big design decisions. If I have to just go a little deeper, was there something missing for you, or it was just like what you were noticing around you for others? But did you also feel that, hey, I need something more than what I'm getting here?
So if I think about it, the kind of canvas Adobe, Flipkart, Megmetric, all of these guys provided the VC firm, they were massive. Had so much opportunity for impact, scale, but it was their canvases. It was huge, it was big, it was influential, impactful, all of that. But the frames were all pretty much drawn. If I were to compare it by comparison, DesignUp was just a scrap of paper. I mean, compared to these huge, massive canvases, these products used by millions of people worldwide per se. But the difference was that this was my piece of paper. I could just draw. The frame is something I could define. If I failed, it was my failure. If it did well, I would be very happy that it did well. It was my learning ground per se. So yeah, I guess that was the one. Is how I distinguish it between those and this. Also, the feeling that you get when you are being like a benign dictator.
And did you have a team with you when you started this, or you just started on your own?
No, so there were two of us, Narayan Gopalan, who was with me. We had given the idea of this conference to IXD, the Interaction Design Association, which is a global body.
Yeah, yeah, I know about that.
And they kind of said, no, we don't want to bring it to Asia. We had then proposed it to Adobe to say, do you want to do something like a Max here? And I think, as happens in big companies, things kind of go from department to department, it gets lost out.
Yeah.
So nothing happened with those conversations with these both large organizations. So Narayan and me at one point said, okay, you know what? I think we got to do it on our own. So both of us started. There were a bunch of people around at that point of time who helped us, who were part of the dining table where the conversations took place, or part of that cafe where some of the first meetings happened. And yes, I think it became a collective of sorts.
So you've also worked like across very different companies like product, service industries, legacy organizations, ventures. So did that breadth make you more like restless or more convinced that designers needed a different kind of gathering altogether? Did you get any insights from those organizations?
I don't think it happened very consciously then, but now looking back, I think the dots are connecting. I think there's a Steve Jobs quote on the same as well.
Becoming a beginner again.
Yeah,
That's what
becoming
you're
a
referring
beginner.
to.
Totally.
Yeah.
So it's fun because I typically get bored. So I think I need to keep myself engaged. Because what DesignUp does is it helps people, it helps designers and non-designers get a more satellite view.
Yeah.
It doesn't just put you in trenches. It doesn't create more craft claustrophobia, but it helps you sort of zoom out and look at the larger picture as much as the details as well. So I think that definitely helped me in a big way.
Okay. So in those early days, I'm sure like there must have been a lot of uncertainty. What did you believe about designers and how they needed to gather even before you had the words for it?
To be honest with you, it was a bit nebulous in my mind. But at that point of time, I think it was almost like saying, hey, this is the gathering I want. This is the kind of people I want. And let's kind of bring it together. So yeah, it happened rather organically. But the words which I did not have then and probably have now is to say that we wanted designers who are curious, who probably have been taught or have worked in a certain way, but they want to grow their learning, they want to zoom out, have the satellite view, be able to connect the dots. If you are a designer like that, great, please join us. And if you are not, then that's perfectly okay too. We'd rather have a small gathering of like-minded people, but not a very big gathering of very random. So that's one thing was very clear in our heads.
And how small was it when you started?
So it was 230 people when we started DesignUp.
That's not small, Jay.
So year one was 230, year two was 500, so it was almost doubling. Then year three was around 800-ish. So again, added another third, more than a third
Wow.
of that. So I think we grew. Somehow we thought about the numbers, and the numbers was never the idea really. But it was just a feeling that what we are doing seems to resonate. That was it.
That's great to know. So you weren't chasing metrics in a way, but you were kind of looking at how people are showing up and connecting with each other and what they're getting out of it.
Absolutely. The first one was a co-working space. Second one was a hotel. Third one was another hotel because this one ran out of space. Then we kind of started realizing that we'll run out of Bangalore, kind of, because Bangalore doesn't have that space beyond the point. And we seriously considered Goa and other places as well. But the fact is that our core audience still, a lot of our people, maybe 40% are still out of Bangalore. And this is a city which has always helped us, supported us in different ways. So we said we got to be here. This is our soul space of sorts.
And this is the 10th year of DesignUp.
That's right. Yeah, I think it, and this is something we joke about. A lot of our volunteers haven't stayed in a job. Actually, I think none of our volunteers have stayed in a job for 10 years, but some of them have been with DesignUp for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
A lot of people who have come as speakers have become volunteers. So I think it keeps, a lot of people have supported us in very different ways, which is really lovely. It's become like one extended family of sorts.
Speaking of speakers, when you're deciding who belongs on that stage, what quality are you actually holding out for? Like, what are you looking for? And is it something you can name or something you can feel like? Because I hear so much banter about it on LinkedIn, especially.
Yeah.
And otherwise, also like people talking to each other about who's going to get selected. So, how do you kind of go about that? How do you select the speakers? I also had applied, did not get through, but I got a consolation prize of being shortlisted.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I think overall, what we do is typically we look for two things. One is authenticity, and by that I mean that whatever you're going to talk about, do you have a real life experience of that? Do you have a battle scar which you have earned, rightfully earned, and you can say, okay, I earned this and I learned this the hard way, and this here I'm sharing this. The second, of course, is how refreshing is your narrative overall. There are a bunch of other things. For example, you may have all of this, but this is a topic on which people have spoken of in the last 2 or 3 years, and you feel that this is being a repeat. Different, but repeat still. You might be one of the 3 people speaking that same year about the similar topic as well. In which case, if all the rest of it is the same for all the 3, we actually then in that case we meet the people as well. We want to hear from them. And authenticity is the other part of it.
So basically, the selection process is who has the most refreshing narrative. It's not a repeat. It sounds like this is a good point of view. And the main key thing is authenticity and how you are sharing almost your earned experience in a way.
A great example is something like AI, for example, because everyone wants to give a talk on AI.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And AI is everywhere, in our heads more than out there. So I think we always love to hear a completely refreshing take on AI, something that we have not heard, we have not encountered before. So yeah, I mean, to all your people listening, I would say surprise us, please surprise us, shock us, surprise us, whatever it takes.
Yeah. Absolutely. And also like have a point of view, right? Like if you're just going to go with a point of view that everyone already agrees with or disagrees with, and you're kind of just adding to the naysayers, it's not differentiated enough as well.
No, absolutely. And this is where the thing comes in that, and at our stage is a lot of very young speakers as well. They are first time speakers. They have not been on a stage of that size, or maybe not even on a stage. And we select them because they have something very refreshing. I mean, we haven't heard that, or it's a very refreshing take of something that we have already heard of one number of times. So I'm assuming that the audience will also have people like you. You yourself are so experienced and you have led teams over many, many years and decades. The question we ask ourselves is that, will you find this refreshing, interesting, something worth going back and telling your colleagues and friends about this, that, the 23-year-old girl said something so amazing. I wish I had said that. So I think we look for that. So we are always up for someone to surprise us. And yeah, that's pretty much.
That's awesome that there is opportunity given to everyone in spite of the number of years of experience they might have or how many talks they would have done. It's purely based on an authentic point of view and a refreshing narrative that would engage the audience. So, Jay, every community also develops their own rituals, moments that quietly hold everything together. Does DesignUp have a ritual that y'all follow?
Yeah, it has a bunch of rituals which have got added on over the years.
Can you talk about some? Probably like maybe whatever is coming up.
Sure. I think one which got added, maybe we started in 2016, so maybe we added it in 2017 or 18, which was the drum jam, which is, it starts with everyone beating drums and tambourines together. It became super popular. And then people would culminate in dancing, and it was just one of the most high energy starts. And it became a signature thing for us. They said this is like the heartbeat of DesignUp. It starts with that. Speakers have talked about it, speakers from all over the world. I mean, you kind of see that in their eyes, and they're all drumming together. This is such a high energy start to DesignUp that people love it. So this is one signature thing. On the other hand, when it comes to the volunteers, which we have kind of cut down to a great extent, is putting the conference kit together. So the night before we usually gather, or we used to gather, it's become much less now to put the kit together. So people would be up all night and they would do this and sort it out and put everything together and get ready for the next day. And then this whole act of then giving the kit and smiling to people and saying welcome, that's another thing that a lot of us do. I'm very often on the line as well, as will many of the volunteers be. We have grown big, so now we have a lot of other people that we also hire who are doing that, but a bunch of us will be present there as well. There's a third one which has developed over the last few years, which has become very loved and appreciated by the speakers and the sponsors, which we have the speakers dinner. And in the speakers dinner, this is a curated 7-course meal in which we ask the speakers to come dressed in Indian attire. So very often the volunteers will take them across the street to buy stuff because they don't have that totally.
In true Indian style hospitality. And how do you make a room feel safe enough for someone who's already accomplished, like all your speakers are, most of them are, and a lot of participants, audience, they are accomplished in their own ways, right? How do you make the room safe enough for them to admit they don't know something? Which is not easy, right?
No, I think you're absolutely spot on. It's not easy at all, especially if you're standing on stage facing 1,400, 1,500 people, such a long stage. It's really hard to uncover your vulnerabilities, to talk about your failures, to talk about your mistakes, and so on. I think from a speaker side, we start very early on that we do encourage them to share failures and vulnerabilities and all of that. We will not push them, but if they feel that there is something that they want to explore and take it more, then we will definitely help them. We act as their sounding boards because we understand the audience, and we will help them define where to draw the line or what to expect or what to say or what not to say. So I think those things we do a lot of, I wouldn't say hand holding, but being there like Sherpas to sort of be with you along the journey. We have a long time. We have 6 months, 7 months to prep. So we're always there. Someone or the other will be there and giving you friendly feedback in terms of what you could possibly do to tweak this.
That's very special, and I'm sure now you're going to get more people who are going to apply for apply to speak. It'll make your job harder now.
Totally. We are up for that. I think this is one of the perks of our job, of our unpaid job, is to read through all of this and say, oh wow, this is very interesting. Why did we never think about it? And that's something that we keep getting all the time, that there are people from different countries with similar ideas that some of us have, completely different takes. takes, completely different regions who have something special to talk about. So yeah, I think this is beautiful overall.
Yeah, it's a true design spirit, I'd say, because that's what design is all about, right? Just being very human centered and iterating in the process, and then kind of teamwork, collaboration, all of
Yeah,
that. So I'm hearing a lot of similar principles that you all
true.
are applying. And it kind of comes, I guess, naturally to a lot of designers as well. So if like one took away like the stage, the schedule, the speakers, what would remain? And what is design up underneath it all?
This is such a wonderful question, and I think if I were to think about it, what would remain is one large table around which people are gathered over great food and great conversations, and of course, great desserts because we believe in good desserts and experimental desserts and all sorts of things. So when I think about our own design up catch ups, where all the volunteers come together, and a lot of volunteers and directors are non-designers as well. So when you come together, you have so many conversations around the larger context of things. How is the industry responding? How is the specialization responding per se? So I think there are conversations which keep flowing and people go on talking for hours and hours and keep mingling. Yes, that is the one.
It's almost like a place where you belong and have friends, colleagues, peers, mentors around you to just have a good time and also have some interesting conversations and share things with each other.
So I think you can see that diversity of experience, diversity of perspectives, people from non-design who have come and joined us. And this, if I were to extrapolate it out to that communities, it will be very similar. The other thing which I keep seeing, because I keep moving around the conference, is that I do see people including others in the conversations. There's no, it's the body language. The way you are standing, you're not kind of saying you can't my circle sort of thing. But I do keep seeing that people keep expanding that circle, and then this conversation happens. And we met a lady the other last year who was extremely funny the way she told stories. She was very young and very funny. And I said, there is somewhere that we need to involve you in DesignUp because you're telling extremely funny, or you're giving us very funny takes on things. So I think you kind of see these kind of people and you say, wow, these are great people to be around with.
If, in your own words, can you tell us what Design Up is all about?
I think I would call it a celebration. It's a celebration of learning, celebration of curiosity, celebration of openness to receive other points of view, other stories, things some of which we know, some of which we don't have any clue about. But I think it's a celebration. It exists for only, let's say, 3 out of 365 days, but you remember it for the other 362 days. That's what it is.
And if you miss it, then you have major FOMO.
Yeah, then you have to wait another year again, kind of. So.
Yeah. So, Jay, belonging is also like one of the hardest outcomes to design for. Like, you can't mandate it, you can't fake it for long. So, what conditions, when designed well, allow it to emerge?
Yeah, I think this is such a critical question, and I think not many people understand or ask this one ever, because at the heart of it is belonging. That's really the core of it. I think the typical thing is for us to understand who should belong and who should not belong. And this is not in a sense of that I don't like them or I hate them, but
Yeah.
the moment you say that a certain group belongs, then there is a larger set also which does not belong. And I think a lot of brands, a lot of companies make the mistake of that it's all about branding and it's all about consistency and all of that. DesignUp is a great example, and this is very consciously done that over the last 10 years, we never had one visual look and feel. Every year, theme changes, every year, it kind of keeps changing. We didn't even have a theme
Designers are
change.
having fun.
Yeah, we're having fun. We're having fun. Just the logo remains roughly the same, but everything changes. Our tone of voice doesn't change, but everything keeps changing, and it's not really belonging to a visual architecture. It's belonging to a soul, to a feeling that this is the one. And it's the good part is it's not even to do with the fact that you're a designer or a non-designer. You can still belong very much. If the idea is to curate a program, a lineup, a certain vibe which attracts a certain set of people, people who are naturally curious, people who are open, people who want to sort of figure out what is happening in the world and how do I connect? What has an animator got to do with the UX design sort of a conference? Why is she here? But if she or he is here, then there must be something that I can connect and take away with me.
Probably also the reason why they're coming there, right? Because
That's right.
everyone's trying to find a place where they would belong. And I feel like the way DesignUp kind of, you see everything about it or hear everything about it from people who've attended. It seems like this is a place that is curated for designers to come, belong, be curious, come with like an awesome energy or go back with even better energy
Yeah.
and just come, share, learn, talk, make friends, have fun. So, was there any point where DesignUp kind of almost stopped, and how did it keep going?
So again, the irony of it was that the year before pandemic 2019, we finished on a high. That was the biggest design up ever. We had events, small events in Chennai and Hyderabad and Pune. We had many conference again, 230-ish people in Singapore, which was a proper conference outside India, supported by the Singapore Design Council and a whole bunch of people. And we had the biggest design up conference so far in Bangalore as well. So if I put it all together, maybe some 2,500, 3,000 people would have walked in through our doors. So this was like the high point. Next year, what do we do? Because we can't manage so many people. And then COVID struck out of nowhere, and there was no end to it almost kind of. In 2021, we did Design Up for a Cause. We had said we will never do online conference ever, but we did that one because every ticket was essentially fundraising. So all the money went to a bunch of charities and that we were supporting. We were clear about who these charities were and why we were supporting them. And this is a great example of where a lot of past speakers actually donated. Like there were people like Daniel Perka or Julie Jouot who donated like $10,000 kind of to support these charities, for instance. So amazing gesture by so many amazing humans from all across the world. People from India, Singapore, you name it. We did not know what would happen. We were unsure. We were not sure what to do. I think not just coming back, but the whole idea about what if there is another infection, because these are super spreader events.
Yeah.
So we were very cautious. 22, 23 was super cautious events. By design, very small, because you never know what would happen overall. And we were at the brink where we said, I don't know whether DesignUp will come back. And I guess I've thought about it myself, but very often someone or the other says, no, DesignUp has to keep going and all of that. We came back and 24 became the big one, 25th followed. We are almost set to surpass in terms of just attendee numbers in 26, the 2019 record. Though it doesn't make any sense anymore because like after a point we kind of keep talking about at what point of time it is too big. Like what point of time entropy starts growing. In a very scientific sort of a physicist way or a chemical this thing about there is entropy built in. So you can't kind of have it so big that the center cannot hold and it starts to disintegrate. You need to have quality more than the numbers. I don't care if it's the world's biggest or the smallest, but it has to be one of the most meaningful ones for our attendees. That's about it.
So as it's growing and intimacy, I'm sure, begins to like shrink, right? How do you protect what matters? Like, how do you protect that?
Yeah, I think that's a very good one again. And typically what happens is that once it becomes a certain size, then subgroups will begin to form. That is
Correct.
given. So the question here is, can we create some subgroups? Can we do something? One of the things we have done very consciously is given 90-minute lunch breaks, which is kind of, you could say, is excessive, but that's great because people want to connect. You need to give them time to connect. So when I was at NID, we used to have this joke around us that we learn more from outside the studios than in the studios, under the tree, at the chai, talking to seniors, juniors, and all of that. And that's a great thing. I mean, there is a learning with the teachers teachers and there's a learning without the teachers. And I think I see a lot of conferences, and I'm sure they are thinking in terms of paisa vasool, value for money, all that sort of thing. So they will say, okay, let's cram in 10 more speakers. And what we are doing is going the counterintuitive way and saying that can we actually consciously add more things. We had ideas earlier that can we have an introverts corner where people can go and talk to each other, just congregate together. So can we create subgroups? Can we have something, whether it's networking, which allows people to meet each other and break away from their organization or friends group and get to know other people as well. So we are thinking about that consciously, and we are being very careful to see that we don't overstretch ourselves and the quality starts to disappear otherwise. So yeah.
And when you're doing that, how do you actually sense that the community is well, like beyond the attendance perhaps or the reach? Like how do you get a sense check of the health of the community?
There are a couple of ways. I think a lot of them are very anecdotal and one-on-one sort of conversations between me and people. Many of them are design leaders, senior people like you, who I'll suddenly say, hey, listen, I need help. This is going so wrong. Can you just help me with this? And then they will kind of gladly jump in and help. So a lot of these people pick up conversations, and the conversations around the community comes through. That makes sense. Did people get a sense of belonging? Did they find something of value? One of the immediate things which has started to happen, which we kind of have noticed in a big way, is the posting frenzy that we see post DesignUp. The amount of social media posts which go up is just crazy. So we completely take a break. We don't do anything. Our social media kind of guys, whoever is helping me, everyone, will not do anything. We are not doing anything anymore. This is outside our hands kind of thing. This has been taken over by the community and they're doing it. And that, like last year, one thing which resonated very, very well to us, the curatorial group, is that a lot of people talked about the fact that this reminded me why I became a designer in the first place. And this is something we had discussed quite consciously in our curatorial meetings, that a lot of this should remind you why you became a designer, because the rest of it is okay, career and this and managers and growth and how much increment I got. All that is great. But what is the fundamental thing? Why did you become a designer? Does this talk remind us of that? And when we saw that, it kind of realized that, my God, people have picked it up. There is a resonance.
This is almost like a playground for designers, I guess.
Yeah.
In some sense, a badminton court or a tennis court or whatever. And speaking of volunteers, like what do your volunteers carry with them that can't be delegated or designed? And how has that shaped the culture of DesignUp?
I think that is such a big thing which is very unique to, not just unique to us. A lot of people have volunteer driven organizations per se, but the volunteers, they don't just provide the manpower, they also put in their thoughts and their ways, because you have very young volunteers, you have senior volunteers, super senior guys. They will actually add why it matters, why it should do something certain ways, who should we invite. There's a lot of thoughtfulness around that. So they are not just a bunch of people who draw a salary and are told what to do and they will do it for you. Actually, sometimes they might not be able to do it because they have got work and family and commitments and all of that. So they might not have the time. They are delayed always. All of that keeps happening. But what also keeps happening is that someone will say, hey, this is not DesignUp. This we should not do. So there is a investment, there is a sense of belonging. But what is very important is there is a sense of ownership. And this goes back to the question you were asking, like, what does an Adobe or a Make My Trip or a VC give me? This is what they do. They work for, again, a Microsoft or a Salesforce or any of these big giant companies. They are managers and senior leaders and all of that. But what DesignUp gives them is that unique sense of ownership. This is my event. I am a host, you are a guest, and I want to make it the best sort of guest experience for you as possibly can. And you may be a friend, you may be a ex-classmate, you may be a colleague, whatever it is, but welcome to my conference. This is my conference. So that's which is very, very special sort of thing.
So ownership is what they bring, and that kind of really infuses the culture and builds it further so that when others, their friends, their peers come in, they feel that sense of belonging and they can kind of go back with that soulful kind of connection.
Totally, totally. I think that's very, very important ingredient per se.
There's this very important aspect of we move away from design doing thinking and exploring things around which are, say, designing a community, which is not very directly related to what designers do generally at work, right? If UX designers are doing journeys or they are building wireframes and thinking about structures, interactions, or visual designers are again doing their own thing, and everyone, like every kind of designer is mostly thinking about how do you design for a community. So if designers were to take some principles like how you've kind of shaped a community for belonging, what are some principles, some philosophies, what should they think about it when they want to create something similar, probably for themselves or for a product that they're creating or for a service that they are building? And today a lot of brands are actually also trying to build communities, right?
No, I think I'll start with your end note, which is it is true. A lot of brands are trying to build community. Having been in this for quite some time, what I've realized is there is only one fundamental question that you need to keep asking and answering. It's the why. Why should anyone belong? Why should they belong to this group that you are creating? And I think this question of community and belonging is equally important for design managers, because and not just design managers, for any sort of managers in any sort of organization, whether it's large, huge, small, boutique studio or anything, because you got to make people as a leader. As a leader, you need to have followers. I think that's the definition of what a leader is, right? So you need to have people who are willing to follow, people which is all up for being part of that community per se. So I think it's critically important for anyone leading anything anywhere sort of keep asking this question. So why is it important for them to belong here? Why should they belong if they did not even get the perks that they have? So very often someone will want to come to a job because they have no other option. But if you take away all of that, can we still make them belong? That is a very vital question that everyone should ask actually for their roles in whatever space they are in.
Yeah. If you think about it, like the way communities were formed earlier, I've read this in Homo sapiens, that communities used to build around natural resources, river bodies, fertile soil, and it would form around one leader or a family and it would grow around them. And there was a number also associated, like 150 people can form a community, and that's the Dunbar's number. And then it evolved into like our neighborhoods, larger extended families. So there are a lot of different kinds of communities people are a part of. Like in a way, if Instagram also you have a community, on LinkedIn you have a community. And now that brands are also trying to build that because they're also trying to connect with people in a more authentic manner, right? And where they're not coming across as branded, so as to say, and we are not trying to sell you stuff that we want to connect with you or create a space for you to connect with each other. In that landscape, a community plays a very important role for people today. So there is a digital, physical, hybrid belonging, and it's also like you belong to some, but you don't belong to others. And in this kind of space, it's important to answer to like, what is the resource for them? Yeah. Like, why would they gather around these kind of resources? Like earlier, if human beings were gathering and building communities around, say, water and fertile soil and food, like what are the resources that we are giving them and why would they join us, right? What's the value exchange essentially that we are providing them, and what are we giving and what are they getting out of it? So how do you think about this?
This is a very deep question in that sense. And I think increasingly today's communities are built around two principal things: ideas and identity. So by going to Design Up, you reinforce your own identity. That you are this kind of a person, you are this sort of a human being, you belong to this kind of community. Or by not going there, you are saying, I'm not that kind of a person, which is equally valid reason. The other is built around ideas. So I think the identity reinforcement is what you get. So this is almost going into psychoanalysis slash philosophy sort of thing. But I think the idea here is that what you get is, of course, you get inspiration and you get all kind of people and friends and meeting all of that. But you also get a certain sense of identity being reflected back at you. So it's almost like saying, me as, let's say, Mr. X goes here and people see me, it's the place to be seen for me. I am in the right place. People acknowledged, reciprocated, spoke to me, discussed with me. It's the right place for me. So I think layers of reciprocation, layers of acknowledgement happens, and which is a big thing, which is a more subtle and much more deep and nuanced thing than just the whole notion of getting great ideas, meeting people. The other is the gathering around ideas part of it, which is what we are. It's not, you could be from any political spectrum because you believe in innovative ideas, you believe in new ideas, you're curious. So I think this ideas also has two parts to it. If you think about it, a lot of communities can happen or gather together from an idea of fear, which is like, oh my God, this might go wrong, or these people might do something, etc., etc. So community can almost build around fear. So some ideas or some gathering happen around ideas which are based on or built on fear. What DesignUp consciously tries to do is around understanding something, around hope, around looking ahead with the idea that we can make a difference. Things don't happen to us only, we can happen to things. So I think that is another idea that if it resonates with people, then they gather together for that sort of an idea. Certainly, yes, latest whatever, and everyone does all sorts of conferences or events do it. And again, it's not just conference. I think the whole notion of belonging in community is not just events or conference or corporate, but it's all so much more social and, around gender, around religion, around faith, around philosophies and so on. And also, I think the idea also is, how do you kind of break this echo chamber? If you look at the fear-based sort of communities, there is a creation of an echo chamber which keeps on kind of growing deeper and deeper. In places like DesignUp, what we try to do is, can we actually break the echo chamber? Can we stop drinking our own Kool-Aid? Confront designers and say that, listen, I mean, all that is great, but sometimes we need to have those voices actually kind of just shake you and wake you up as well, sort of saying that maybe all what you're thinking is not quite right.
What I get out of it is that the value exchange here is ideas and identity, an opportunity to evolve your identity and exchange ideas. So that's really the offering here. And that's the reason why people want to belong to the community.
Yeah.
So it's almost a pull effect versus a push effect that you see from branded kind of communities.
And I think designers are very much in the thick of it. So if you look at designers and where they want to work, designers like to be seen in the right place, with the right people, wearing the right brands, drinking the right stuff, or eating the right things, or carrying the right notebook or bag.
Wearing the right color.
Exactly. So this is where I think that whole reinforcement of the identity comes into play in a big way. One example would be, where do designers want to work today? I mean, chances are they would want to be seen in one of those new age AI companies. Maybe they don't even feel that Figma is cool anymore. They want to be at a Lovable, or even if Lovable may not be the cool anymore, maybe it is Claude right now. So I think we love this flavor of the season wala angle kind of quite a bit. So we keep on moving and wanting to reinforce our identity with that. I was reading this article around Figma versus Adobe, and then there's a whole bunch of people kind of all going online and talking about how Figma stocks have dropped by 80% and all of that. The fact is that Adobe dominated the landscape for 3+ decades, almost 40 years actually. It was the undisputed leader, and it also consolidated a lot of other tools and stuff like that. If you look at Figma, Figma's dominance has been less than a decade. In there, but it has been less than a decade. And before it could even complete a decade, there was X and there was Lovable. And it is coming to a phase where no one will likely dominate for even 5 years. Forget a decade. So Adobe has been really great and lucky to have had that wide canvas and that dominance for such a long time. Now there's Canva, Affinity, it's getting fragmented more and more. So everyone is coming up, and there is like the cool kid on the block for 6 months and another cool kid on the block takes away kind of thing. But that's the reality of the world we are living in now.
Especially for designers, I think
Yeah.
it's important to remember tools are tools. They are going to facilitate you to do what you are doing. So you don't have to fear the tool. AI is also a tool.
Yeah.
Like, look at it like that, because there's so much fear around it as well, right? Like, is AI going to take my job? And there will be many more tools. So use tools, like go forward with your thinking. I think that's really important.
True, no, that's very, very important. But that's again identity, right? The laptop you use with the software you use, that it becomes part of your identity.
Oh,
You
yeah.
separate that. Oh, you are a Mac user. No, I use this particular brand, or I use this particular headset, or whatever kind of thing. These
Yeah.
are all multiple tools.
Correct.
So even if you do for nothing, which is the new kid on the block, nothing is also another expression of your
Yeah.
identity. So,
Wow. So, Jay, you also dive, and there's something about being underwater, like no sound, total presence, and no distraction. That seems to almost be like the complete opposite to the noise of a conference. Do you think about the quality of attention DesignUp creates? And what does it feel like when a room is truly present?
diving does make it very, very immersive because you're physically also involved. Your mind is involved, your body is there completely. You're flying, which is an experience of almost flying underwater. And you got to be respectful to all the elements around you at that point of time. I think all these experiences have kind of really informed the way I think about thinking, which is this thing called metacognition, which is when you are starting to think about thinking and your own thinking, or if you can watch yourself thinking. It takes time because your mind is always buzzing and stuff like that. But I think attention is all that there is. What you give attention to is what life is about. What you give attention to defines how you make decisions, and decisions define what kind of life you have, which is what I keep talking a lot about, that your life is nothing but a sum total of decisions you've made. Bad decisions, good decisions, who you decided to marry, what degree you decided to pursue, which job you decided to leave and when, etc., right? But at the same time, a lot of that is to do with attention. Were you paying attention to a niggling thought which just kept saying that I need to leave this job, my boss is bad, or this is bad, or that is bad? Things are happening, but a lot of life that happens to you is about how you interpret and what you're paying attention to.
Absolutely.
So I think for me, all of this comes together really. DesignUp, work, diving, driving, and of course meditation kind of. I think meditation is the core at the thing where it helps you kind of calm down and see your thoughts. Thoughts will not stop, but at least you can kind of put a little distance
Observe them.
when you observe them, sort of thing. Yeah.
So as DesignUp moves into new geographies now, we know that it's going to Berlin this year, and it's a big one. Design festival that's going from the east to the west. So it's a huge thing. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Is there also something around like design is also like pretty global, right? I prefer to call it universal, but because a lot of principles have come from west to the east, and I feel like taking this from the east to the west is also like sharing the Eastern philosophies and ways of thinking, and it's almost like an infusion of different cultures people coming together, and of course different ideas in that sense. Like, is that also one of the reasons, or I'm just thinking this in my head?
No, you're absolutely right. That's the whole idea as well. That a lot of people sitting in the West are designing for the East and vice versa. Someone
Hmm.
sitting in the South for North and so
Correct.
on. Increasingly, digital products are boundaryless and they're going all across. But certain nuances are still very cultural. So, how do you deal with those cultural nuances is bigger question. You will see a lot of Eastern products doing very well in the West. A lot of people wonder what is it that is powering, how are they sort of doing it, how are they dealing with complexity, etc. Also, what I've seen with a lot of European conferences are they are much more Eurocentric, which is
Hmm.
absolutely fine. So the idea also was for maybe for Europe to see what is happening in the other parts of the world.
Hmm.
A lot more representation, not just a small kind
Hmm.
of few speakers here and there, but a very good diverse mix of speakers from
Hmm.
different regions, different nationalities, and so on.
I want to move towards product designers who are watching or hearing this conversation can take away from here. So, what principles from the community building would translate directly into, say, for example, digital spaces that they are building? Like, anything comes to mind?
I think the fundamental thing is you are trying to build a community of users eventually.
Hmm.
Users are, again, fickle. They are happy to shift to something else, try something new, shift loyalties. Maybe in the past, the number of products were much less, so you had much
Hmm.
less of that shifting and higher loyalty that is on the wane. So you need to figure out how do you build your community of users. So I think the same thing very much applies to what you are building today. How can you build a very loyal community around? Like, for example, you see Lightroom users are a very strong, small community, but a very, very strong community because there are a bunch of photographers. So I think the moment the community is tight and easy to define and say this is my community, then the chances of building something for them is much better.
And Jay, you've been holding space for everyone for like 10 years through DesignUp, along with like all your volunteers and stuff. How has this shaped you? Or underneath like the work, has it changed anything? Or is like Jay different from the 10 years ago Jay because of showing up for DesignUp or working on DesignUp?
Absolutely. I think it has changed me immensely, I would say.
Hmm.
If I think about 15 years back or 17 years back or whatever that time frame is, if I think about Adobe days, for instance, delivering large projects was challenging for me. It was not impossible, but it was certainly very challenging. I think as I began to realize, DesignUp actually made it possible in the sense that I pick a date, I say I'm going to do it, and I will do it. The date is not movable. So whatever it takes, you've got to do it. So I think that philosophy changed. And while I was doing DesignUp, I was still with Make My Trip, and we did a whole bunch of releases. Make My Trip change, complete 360-degree change. But through all of that, a lot of that was the application of you pick a date, you make a commitment, and you cannot move from the commitment. If something changes, then it has got to be very, very compelling reason for something to change. But otherwise, it should not change. So what we do is we make a commitment about a year ago, a year in advance. We commit to a date, we commit to a time, and the idea is to stick to it. And I think that is something that has changed me, but it has also changed me in the sense that how I deal with kind of big, well-known names, well-known speakers, some of them with massive egos, but they don't sometimes understand what DesignUp is, our ethos, our philosophy. So how do you convince them? How do you convince someone that we don't pay speakers, for example, right? So how do you deal with big egos? How do you deal with problems on the day-to-day sort of thing? We have had instances where a speaker has cancelled about 36 hours before, and we have managed to find another speaker and fly her out from San Francisco within those 36 hours. So no one saw the glitch. He put something in place of another. People enjoyed that. Everything went very well. But how do you troubleshoot in very high stake sort of things? So yeah, I think I shaped DesignUp, but I think DesignUp has shaped me even more. So for me, it's a huge learning, growing experience overall. I think much more than maybe a corporate. It's like the excitement, which is very different. That it's a
Yeah.
childlike excitement.
Yeah, I can see that on your face. So if design up like ever, we wish that never happens, but if it ever lost its way, what loss would you grieve about the most?
I wouldn't, to be honest with you now. I think I would applaud and celebrate what we have done. I also know that this is not forever. And eventually, again, going back to our favorite subject, entropy sets in at some point of time. There are things die in two ways. One, they die because kind of dies and never revives. The other way it dies is that it becomes very big, very corporate, very commercial, and it loses its soul. So one way or the other, it might end up somewhere there. If it is going somewhere towards that, who knows? The external circumstances change. I think now I'm very grateful that this year it happened. Next year we don't know. I mean, pandemic taught me that, because next year you might go from your biggest success story to absolute zero in everything kind of sense. So I think that's the beauty of impermanence. Embrace it, celebrate what happened and the wonderful memories that we have, and that's fine. I think we did what we had to do. Maybe it is time to meet more often over long tables, like what you were mentioning. If the stage is taken away, if the lights are not there, but you still have conversations, that's the heart of it, kind of.
I just want to, like, before we wrap up, we request all our guests to share a framework or worksheet or some principles, that our listeners can or viewers can actually apply to their work. So if there is a framework to create a community or a sense of belonging, or if there are some, say for example, like pillars or some ideas that, or thoughts that people should keep in mind while designing a community, like what would that be?
I think there is one framework which probably works for everything, what you do in life, at work, and everything. And this framework is fairly old, almost 2,600 years old. And this is nothing but just sitting down and, as the Buddha would say, watch your own thoughts. Your thoughts are metacognition, I think, is one of the most hardest things to master and one of the most brilliant things to do. And I think you begin to realize belongingness in different sense. Sometimes we don't even belong to ourselves. And if you combine it with the Vedantic thought, which is even more ancient, around the five sheets, which is known as the Panchakosha sort of philosophy around that, is that who are you and what does it mean? I mean, are you the mind? Who is thinking those thoughts? Are those thoughts even real? Chances are the thought is an automatic one which came to your head. Maybe the thought is not even real. But from a framework perspective, it's as simple. You don't need anything. You just need a quiet space. And eventually, if you grow out of it, you don't even need a quiet space. You don't even need a dark space or a light space or whatever. You just need a space. So sit down with your thoughts and just observe your thoughts, observe your breath, just kind of breathe in, breathe out, and see how your breath grows in. One of the things it's like a discovery, whereas the fact is that it's always been there, is how quiet your body is actually. It doesn't, there's a heart which is pumping out so much blood every minute, every second. There are lungs breathing in. There are so many processes, so much of piping inside your body, but your body is so wonderfully quiet. Just enjoy that silence. Watch your breath, watch your thoughts, be with yourself, because a lot of time we beat ourselves up. We are always constructing narratives and stories about what we did not do and what we did and how we are not good enough and all of that, and just watch all of those thoughts. That's about it. Nothing else do you need. Do it day after day, do it month after month, years after years, and you will be a completely changed human being. So that's the only framework that I would leave you. It's the simplest framework that is totally possible, but it's probably much more profound than anything else.
So you are actually saying that if you meditate and if you be with yourself, you'll find a lot of resolutions within you. And that's a beautiful framework which could help them think about different things in their life. It could be about, do you want to create a community, or where do you belong, or how do you see yourself in a few years from now? So you will get all of those kind of answers to the big questions.
I think on the belonging subject, it's almost like, do you have a sense of belonging with yourself? And the question is,
Hmm.
who is me and who is myself?
Hmm.
Am I the body? Am I the mind? Am I the brain? Am I my
Hmm.
feelings? Am I my
Hmm.
thoughts? Sometimes you might beat yourself up for those thoughts, but you didn't feel like you thought them. It just came from somewhere, it appeared. You might not feel right about the body, or you might not feel right about the day or the conversation you had, and so on. So I think this is a fundamental question of who am I and what do I belong to within my own world. There is so much left to explore.
Yeah.
And I think once you know that, once you become more and more clearer, aware, I think that's a beautiful journey of being self-aware, being having a sense of identity again, which we often try and make up for by buying things or doing
Hmm.
things or being
Hmm.
seen in the right places, etc., etc. Right?
Yeah.
But if you are integrated as a person, if you're integrated as a whole, and you are confident in your own skin as who you are, I think that is the most beautiful journey you can take.
This is so beautiful. It's like so simple and yet so profound because I mean, it's important to first belong to yourself before you can belong to others and other spaces and other people and communities, even. So, this is extremely simplified and extremely profound. This is making me go back to my meditation practice. Awesome, Jay. Thank you so much. And I wish you all the best. So, wish you the very best for Design Up 2026. And I hope to see you in both the events.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Payal. Thank you for this wonderful conversation, thoughtful questions, and for all your good wishes. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you.
Thank you. Take
Okay,
care.
bye bye.
Community isn't a follower count, it isn't a Slack group or a room full of people who click the same button as you. It's where you go to be challenged, where ideas get pressure tested, identities get built slowly, and showing up actually means something. Belonging has edges, and that's the point. When you belong to some, you don't belong to others. That friction isn't a flaw. It's what makes it real. But here's what Jet spoke to us about today. You can't belong somewhere if you don't belong to yourself first. Not a community, not a movement, not even a conversation. The clarity has to come before the connection. That's what this show is about. Not audience building, not engagement, just honest conversation about design and the people who care enough to have it. I'm Payal Vaidya. This is Design Etc.